Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Apples and Ginos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. My name is Nate Groot Niblink. I'm the creator of Apples and Ginos, originator of the Zero G draft strategy. And in this podcast, we're running it back with a bangers categories mock draft. Let's get it. All right, welcome in, everyone. We are back. I had a lot of fun, honestly, doing the mock draft the other night, and I was like, hey, I've got a free night. Let's do it again. I wanted to change things up a little bit, so we're running a bangers cats setup here. We got Tyler in the chat already. Literally just saw all the commotion for this in the Discord. Let's go. Jackson in the chat, also in the draft. Here we go again. Hashtag 0G, hashtag bang bang. Let's go. All right. I will just briefly run through the category setup. We got a couple minutes here before this thing kicks off. So I basically am just using the same setup that I used for the Apples and Ginos Patron League, which is a league that you could be a part of next year if you wanted to. You sign up for the Apples and Ginos Patreon. And basically, on September 1st every year, I put it out there, and the first 11 people to sign up get to play in that league with me. Get to lose to me if you were in the league this past year. I did manage to take it down. That was actually the first time I've taken it down, so I can't brag too much. But it was a good year. It was a fun year. Really, really good quality of play in that league, and I hope to do that again. So we're kind of prepping a little bit. I mean, it's July, right? There's only so much prep you can do in July before you, at least for myself, before I get my projections done and everything. But here are the categories: goals, assists, power play points, shots on goal, hits, and blocks. So 6 skater categories and then 3 goaltender categories. We got wins, we got saves, and we've got save percentage. This is the way I like to do it. There are many different ways to run a category setup, as I'm sure everybody knows, but this is the way I like to do it. I think I might have taken this off the 5-hole guys, or a similar version of this. I don't really like having 4 goalie categories. A lot of times you see shutouts. I really hate having shutouts, where usually if you get 1 shutout for the week, you win the category for the week. Don't like any category that's low event like that. So, yeah, this is the way we're going to run it. And then I am just kind of running it back with the same roster settings that we had in the last mock. 2 center, 2 left wing, 2 right wing, 4D, 2 skater, 2 goalie spots. And we've got obviously bench to fill it out. It's 16 rounds. Normally you would go to like 4 bench spots, but we're only really doing 2 in this one just to keep it a little bit under wraps in terms of the time. So we've got lots of people in here, and the clock has started. 101 is on the clock. I'm going to get to some comments. I'm coming up at the 109. I'm just going to make sure that I refresh my connection here, because there is the odd chance, I don't know if you caught the last one, but there is the odd chance that I will miss my pick while running through comments. It's happened before, and it may happen again. Tyler said, wish you would have seen it sooner in the Discord. All I've done is Bangers Cats undefeated in 2 seasons. Would have loved to go against these legends. Awesome. I'm sure we'll do more mocks for you to be in. Toronto Dave's here. Hashtag 0G as always. Good to see you, buddy. QEJ says, who's going to grab a goalie first? Not it. Jackson says, Nate, when are we going to get a 4K stream? Yeah, that is gonna take some investment on my part, both on the streaming software side and on the camera side. Tyler says Nate's going to grab Helly early. Yeah, if you saw, I timed out in the last muck, and Connor Hellebuck was next up, and so I was, for a very short period of time, the first person to take a goaltender. And Brandon's in here. Exactly what I want to see in mid-July. Let's go. That's how I feel. And it seems like there are some people who feel similarly. Happy to be doing this with everyone here tonight. All right, let's see what we got. We got Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, Nikita Kucherov, Austin Matthews coming off with the first 4 picks. That's pretty standard stuff. Jackson goes with David Pasternak at the 5 spot. Yeah, so far it's pretty hard to argue with any of these picks. I did try to make sure everybody got pinged in here, so hopefully everybody's able to be drafting live. I just sent out the invite for this yesterday, so I feel like we should have some decent participation. Everybody was pretty keyed up and joined the league pretty quickly. So hopefully everybody's able to get in here and we don't have too much autoing going on. Some of the ADP is definitely a little bit interesting in the early going here, so we could get some exciting picks. But that all adds to the fun. It's July. Nobody's going to hold us these teams. There we go. There's the Hellebuck pick on the first auto of the night. Jay Wiggler. I'm not sure who that is. I tried to search that in the Discord to see who that was, and I couldn't find it back. So we'll have to see. They might end up, whoever Jay Wiggler is, they might end up with all the goalies if they're not able to make it into the room rather shortly. So hopefully we get there. Chewy Chase says round one. Yes, that is what we got. Panarin 107. And we keep on trucking here. Yeah, I was looking through the draft from the other night, trying to find the guys who, went too late, basically trying to find the guys who I think should be pulled up. There are definitely some guys that will get pulled up just by virtue of the format, right? Category coverage across formats is definitely going to make a big difference in this one. But yeah, it's definitely some interesting names still on the board. I did set myself up a little queue before we got things started here, so I wouldn't get totally thrown out. I wonder what the ADP. I'm just gonna sort this by ADP to see what we're gonna get. It might be a whole bunch of goalies at the top of ADP. It is. So we get a couple of goalies in the early going. Well, that's just gonna make the 0G all the sweeter for the rest of us. Draisaitl falling to 109. I feel like I have to do that. I don't think there's much of a discussion there. 109 Draisaitl, I'm gonna take and feel pretty good about it every single time. If we get too many auto pick goalies, I wonder maybe I'll have to play with the settings somehow. I wonder if I can stop them from just getting goalies every time. I imagine the auto pick. I honestly don't have that much experience with Fantrax's auto pick settings. I imagine that, even if they get a couple goalies early, that'll kind of even out. But yeah, it's definitely throwing this draft for an interesting loop early. We've got some interesting stuff going on in the chat. Leonidas is in here. Seems like a tears drop. There is a teardrop at around 13 this year if no goalies go. Hockey Kid, Oilers, Blake should hop in and fill the auto drafters. Yeah, Blake was trying to be in this actually, and then he got stuck in traffic, and he was not going to be able to be. We don't want Blake to be driving and drafting, so it was understandable that he couldn't be in here. Jackson says they need a 0G setting on Fantrax just for you, Nate. I mean, I would appreciate it. Fantrax, DM me. We can talk. Definitely. And Richard says goals, assists, shots on goal, power play points, hits, blocks, wins, saves, save percentage. Yes, that is what we're going with. So after my Draisaitl pick 109, we get Rantanen 110. We get both Tkachuk brothers. Notice I got the Tkachuk phrasing correct. Not phrasing, pronunciation. That's the one we're going for. Got Tkachuk on the brain. I can say it correctly. Yeah, Tkachuk and Makar on the turn feels really nice. I got to start thinking about who my pick is going to be here. Definitely some pretty interesting options in here. Kaprizov is an interesting one. Him falling to the second when he's oftentimes going. I'm just going to look back. Yeah, he went 112 in the last mock we did. So him falling to the second is an interesting spot for him. You've got JT Miller, who obviously crushes this kind of setup across all formats. Jack Hughes falling into the second round. Obviously not a big hitter, but definitely a guy who can provide a ton in a lot of categories. Big time points upside. Interesting stuff for sure. Yeah, there are some pretty interesting guys, like even Elias Pettersson. If he has a bounce back season, he does provide across categories. I am on the clock. It's JT Miller, it's Elias Pettersson, it's Roman Yossi. Am I missing anybody? I don't think so. Those are kind of the big names that are on my radar at this point. Philip Forsberg, I should add to the mix there. I don't know how likely it is that Forsberg reprises last year's heights, but hard to argue with the kind of hit production he puts up as well. Shot production, it's really nice. I think in the end, though, it might be just too tough to get away from JT Miller. And that triple eligibility is just so sweet that I think that is the route that I'm going to go and feel pretty good about it. JT Miller with Leon Draisaitl out of the 9 spot. That is something you won't see every day, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. All right, Jackson said, I wanted Brady, but it felt like 5 was a bit rich for him. Yeah, I would definitely be taking Pasternak ahead. Yeah, I think I would take Draisaitl. It's an interesting thought process to think where you might take him. I think the Kachuk brothers going together makes some sense. You could argue a Makar up there, just like even in this format, he definitely laps the field at defense. Yossi obviously with the shot production, huge numbers that he can put up from the back end and kind of be ahead of everybody else. So yeah, we get a second goalie to Di Lorenzo because of the ADP setup here, and I imagine we'll get the same for Jay Wigler if they're not able to join. Maybe I can throw them an at in the. I don't have Jay Wigler, but I do have Di Lorenzo. Let's see if I can throw him an at in the mock drafts channel and get them in there. And then, yeah, I'll see what happens. I don't really want it to be like 3 goalies in a row. That could really throw the draft for a bit of a loop. I'm okay with, I mean, it's early. I'm not going to get too bent out of shape over some auto drafting, right? Maybe if this was like our last mock draft of the year, right before we're trying to decide where all these ADPs should be at. But it's July. We're going to chill out and we're going to have a good time. So we'll get a couple goalies off here. If it goes to 3 goalies in 3 rounds, then maybe I might have to do some intervention with these picks moving forward and just kind of take the top skater by ADP instead of the top goalie. We'll see. We will see how things go. Tyler Wilson saying JT would be my pick. When I made my pick there, me as well, obviously. Jackson's saying Nate just won the draft, obviously. Don't know what else you'd expect. Charlie Lindgren. Wow, that is interesting. Just for the sake of, I'm going to pause this draft. Charlie Lindgren should not be going here. How is that a possibility? We're going to change. I don't mind it being a goalie, but we're going to change that one. That is kind of ridiculous. How do I do this there we go. There we go. You can have a goalie, but it's going to be Shesterkin. There we go. We're back. Resume the draft. Over to you, Jackson. Yeah, I just don't know if Charlie Lindgren in the second round is something I'm going to entertain. Yeah, ADP is messed up, as you might expect early on Fantrax, but we're not going to stand for Charlie Lindgren in the second round, even in a July mock draft. Hockey Kid said I got scrambled if I had a do-over, do Brady over Matt at 11. Yeah, that's fair. I don't know, Matt Kitchuk, I would say, has more points upside, so that's definitely a big thing in his favor, and he's going to provide you some bangers. So I think it's well within the tier for me. Tyler Wilson said JT was a huge steal in the second round last year. Yeah, I had him in the Fantasy Puck Content Creators League. It was a big steal. I think I was drafting out of the 3 spot if I remember correctly, 2 or 3. In the Content Creators League. So I got him at 210 or 211, and obviously that one hit in a big way for me. Jackson said Pettersson or Dahlin or Bouchard. What's the people's vote? It looks like you went with Pettersson. That's a decent one. Brandon said these guys drafting goalies right now are ruining it. I don't know. You always get some interesting stuff. Maybe they wouldn't go this early, but um, if it pushes these ADPs by or these picks by a few picks, I'm not going to be too excited or too worried about it. That is. Tyler said I got Pettersson second round last year. He was hot in the first half, but tailed off. Definitely, it'll be interesting to see actually what Pettersson can do this year. Richard said he was ready to do the Kachuk Bros at the turn. Yeah, that would be interesting for sure. All right, let's see what we got for the audio listeners. The second round went Makar, Hughes, Kaprizov. I took JT Miller, Demko, Yossi, Shesterkin, Pedersen, Sider, Dahlin, Forsberg, Bouchard, Uyghur. And then Reinhardt to Party at the Moon Tower at 3-2. Coming back through the third here, I'm going to put this back and try to figure out what I might be interested in doing with the center left wing Draisaitl and the center left wing right wing JT Miller. I am feeling it like I'm in a pretty good spot. Feeling like I'm in a very good spot actually in terms of what I can do with this pick. I can go a lot of ways. I'll add Victor Hedman would be up at the top of this list for me. I don't think Quinn Hughes covers enough categories. Same with Adam Fox to be in consideration at this spot. But I think Hedman with Sergachev out of town could have a pretty solid season. See what we get here. We can sort these things a few different ways. Zach Hyman would definitely be interesting. Mitch Marner's already falling a fair bit here in the third round. That could be interesting. There's definitely going to be some interesting players to be snapped up here at the end of the third round. Frank Vetrano at the 3-4. That is an interesting pick. I wonder, was that? No, it's not an auto draft. All right. That's a big stand on Vetrano. Obviously, huge year last year, but I think there's definitely a few guys that I'd be interested in over him here. Robertson would have some interest for me. Stamkos. There's definitely going to be some guys. Stützle, that makes some sense at the back end of the third round here. Stamkos, Crosby's still on the board. Barkov's still on the board. I mean, Barkov, like sneaky, had 104 hits last year. I don't think people are giving him quite that respect. Joel Eriksson Ek, if he produced the 64 points again, would make some sense, but I don't know how I feel about that one yet. I haven't projected Minnesota yet. I think they still might prefer that Joel Eriksson Ek is more the shutdown guy and to let Marco Rossi mature into a true 1C. That might be the route that they want to go. I don't know if it will go that smoothly for him to take over that way, but it's definitely a possibility. Jack Eichel, I should add to the list here. Just going down the list. I love me some Tage Thompson. I got to throw him on. Connor Bedard, let's throw him in there. All these kind of guys would have some interest for me. All right, let's see what we got back in the chat. Richard said round 3 to round 6 is the real test. I kind of agree with that, actually. Leonidas asking, what's your take on Pettersson versus Robertson? Pettersson had 12 games last year with 3 or more points. Robertson only had 1, but Dallas looks nasty. Yeah, I think, if you swap their teams and Pettersson played as little as Robertson does, then I think you'd take Robertson pretty comfortably. But I do think that they're comparable players at this point. Robertson obviously falling here. Pettersson hits, actually. Pettersson kind of fills out these categories a little bit better. We can see his stuff here. 125 hits last year, 68 blocks. Like, he does more than people realize, I think, in the peripheral categories. So that makes him pretty interesting from that perspective. Yeah, the auto pick went to Steven Stamkos instead of a third goaltender, thankfully. So we're not going to get 3 goaltenders in a row out of these auto drafters, which is good. Hopefully, if there is a third goaltender, it doesn't come off for quite a while with the auto draft programming, hopefully. The third round here, it goes Uyghur, which is an interesting pick. If he stays on power play 1 all season, I think you enjoy that pick because he absolutely crushes the peripheral categories. Reinhardt 3-2, Nylander 3-3, Vetrano 3-4, Hedman 3-5, Stamkos 3-6, Hyman 3-7, Crosby 3-8. I'm on the clock with 15 seconds left. Mitch Marner being here is pretty crazy. There's definitely some other guys that I like a lot as well, but I think I am going to go with Mitch Marner. Um, I mean, definitely not a guy who like gives you a ton, but like 59 hits, 51 blocks. It's not like he's ruining you in the peripheral categories. That was in 69 games this past year, which is pretty nice if you stop to think about it. 158 shots over 82 games. Add another 13 games there. Yeah, he'll get close to 200. Hopefully, last year was a bit of an aberration for him, and he can actually kind of kick things back up. I think it's at least a possibility that he just has a much better season this year than he did last year if he hits things off with Craig Berube the right way. Um, yeah, uh, I think at this point, my expectation is that Marner won't be traded. There's obviously a lot of talk about that, but how many trades like that can you really find when you're dealing a star player with a huge contract like that and someone who needs an extension? I really don't know what the likelihood of being able to move that for anything close to value would be at this point. So it'd be interesting if it did happen, but I think the most likely scenario at this point is that Marner is back with the Leafs at least for next year. After my pick, 3-9 Marner, it's Tage Thompson at 310, it's Jason Robertson at 311, love all that, Quinn Hughes at 312, and Jesper Bratt at 4-1. It's going to come back around to me, and there's going to be plenty of guys that I'm pretty happy to take here. We got Meyer, Stützle, Barkov, Eichel, Bedard all in the queue. I'm interested in all those guys for obvious reasons. Actually, Jake Gensel I should be having in here too. Jake Gensel uh, does tend to fill out some categories for you from time to time. Last year, he's a little bit down in terms of the hits and stuff, but going to that Tampa power play, if he can do some stuff there, definitely an interesting one. All right, we're back up. Timo Meyer is exciting, but obviously a big swing and miss type of pick. It's a home run swing for sure. The safer play would probably be to go with Barkov or Eichel. Um, interesting conundrum for sure. I'm curious, what did Eichel do last year? Yeah, he's not much of a hitter. The shots are better for sure than Barkov. So he does contribute that way. But I think I'm a Barkov guy. I think I'm going to go with him here and feel pretty good about that in the fourth round. Yeah, just continuing to build this out with some high end skill, really. Can't argue with the skill on this team throughout. Got my big hitter as well with JT Miller in the second round. Feel really good about that. Barkov, a surprising source of hits, I would say. So I'm pretty happy with how that's going all over. So yeah, I'll just go around here. So we had Bratt at the 4-1. We had Stützle at the 4-2. Svechnikov at the 4-3. Obviously, with his hits, he gets boosted up in this format as well. I go Barkov at 4-4. We're back to the auto drafters here. And we can get back into some comments. Jackson saying, going back to his Hedman pick in the third round. Sorry, Nate, I needed some D. Hashtag giggity. You save that for Blake. Blake's the one who likes that stuff. Referencing my comments, well, that's why I picked Pedersen. Jackson says, as a Cats player now for many years, his hits blocks are nice for forward. Tyler's saying that he agrees about Marner, doesn't think he's going anywhere this year, and is back in on Timo time this year. Keith loves riding his big guns. I tend to agree with that assessment. Also saying Barkov in the fourth is crazy. I have to agree with that. Stützle actually gets a sneaky amount of hits. I agree. I do like Stützle there in the fourth round. I think he probably scores some more goals this year as well. Played injured for a good chunk of last year. All right, we've got Aho going after my Barkov pick, then Jack Eichel. We're back to the other auto drafter, and we'll see what they get. They get Braden Point. I believe they're on the actual auto pick right now, so I think they'll get automatically drafted like 1 second as soon as they come on the clock from here on out. I didn't want to try to mess with it too much while we're talking live on stream, but that'll hopefully make this thing go a little faster. Jackson is back up. We'll see where he goes. I'm gonna go look at last week's mock and just see if there's anybody else that I think should be going in this range that's falling now. I think we've got the major names here. Definitely some interesting names still on the board. I never know how much I should just focus on the education of this and just, put them out there, and how much I should focus on trying to have the best mock draft possible against all these people who are drafting against me while listening to me talk. So there's something to be said for both approaches, I guess. We get Noah Dobson at 4-8. We get Darnell Nurse at 4-9, leaning heavily into the hits and blocks there. I do think that there's probably a few other guys that I would have gone who could give you at least a good chunk of that. Like there's the McAvoys and the Doughties and the Latangs who give you a good chunk of all that if you want to get there, but also give you some more offensive upside. Kempe 410, Gensel at 411 feels really nice. He went, I'm going to look back, but I think he even went higher in he went 212 in our points mock. So for him to slip all the way to 411, I know that he didn't have as many hits last year, but yeah, for him to slip all the way to 411, even given the category setup here, feels pretty nice for Party at the Moon Tower there at the 411. At the 412, we get Joel Eriksson Ek. That's, yeah, hard to argue with that. Contributes so much to the hits and to the shots. Gives you blocks as well out of the center position. If you've set yourself up to be able to take the C only there, then it's hard to argue with that. You have to assume, I guess, and hope that he stays as the top line center, top power play the whole season. But if he does, I think you'll be pretty happy with him out of the 412. Seth Jarvis, 5-1. It's an interesting pick. I think there's a few guys that I'd rather have there, but I mean, it's probably pretty nitpicky to say much about that. I'd be interested. I haven't found any defensemen where I've been like ecstatic about the value, I guess I would say. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see who comes back. There's definitely guys that I like here. Definitely some names that make some sense. I like McAvoy, I like Morrissey, I like Carlson, I like Riley. Adam Fox, obviously not great for this format, but going to provide you tons of points and tons of power play points. Hard to argue with that. Michael Matheson. We'll throw all these defensemen in there that kind of round out that tier for me at the top. And then we'll go back into the forwards and see what we get. Marchessault is an interesting one, obviously, for the goal scoring, for the shots, for the hits. Provides all of that. Is he really going to get the power play time? Is going to really kind of dictate his value in a large way, for sure, moving forward. But that's an interesting one. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. There's definitely some names later on that I'll be targeting, so I want to leave myself open for that. I don't want to box myself in, but I think so far we're pretty open to what the draft comes to us. We got one center in Barkov, we got the center left wing in Draisaitl, we got the triple eligibility with JT Miller, which is pretty clutch, and we got Mitch Marner at right wing only. So I feel pretty open to whatever the draft brings. John Tavares here has to be on the list. Does hit, does shoot. Will get you some power play points. Don't think he's done quite yet, so do think he makes some sense in this range as well. We've got lots of guys in the queue now. I'm going to scroll a bit and see if there's anybody else. I think Verhaeghe could make some sense. Tippett is a big-time shooter and a big-time hitter, but is probably not going to give you a ton of power play points, which is a bit of a minus in this setup. So after Jarvis at 5-1, we get Ovechkin 5-2, we get Fiala 5-3, we get Marchand 5-4, we get Trocheck 5-5, friend of the show, Vinny Tro. Chris Kreider goes 5-6, Verhaeghe goes 5-7, Zibanejad 5-8. I'm back on the board 5-9, and Timo Meier is still here along with Connor Bedard. Both of these guys I'm thrilled about in this setup. Man, that is tough. Very tough to decide between these kind of talents at this stage. Wow. I think that I'm going to go with Meier just because he, just fills out the categories. It's left wing, right wing eligibility again. It's always easier to find these centers later on, but man, that is an interesting spot. I definitely thought that both of those guys, there's no way they were making it back to me when I took Barkov at 4-4. So pretty happy to get even one of them at the 5-9. That feels pretty strong. Let's go back to the comments. Brandon said Ovi falling. Yeah, Ovi falling to the 5-2. Definitely he shines in Bangers Cats. So maybe this room in particular kind of projecting a bit of a continued fall from grace in terms of the point scoring, goal scoring, etc. Hockey Kid says I'm going to get myself sniped, but how's Gensel still on the board? Yeah, definitely went a little later. Hockey Kid said go Meyer. Definitely not because I want Bedard. Fair enough. There you go. You can have him. McAvoy at 5'10 feels really good too. That would have been my pick at defense of the group, I think. That's still available. I think I do want to have a defenseman here. I think, yeah, as I talk about all these players that I want, they go off all in a row: McAvoy, Bedard, and Tavares. That's the life. But I do think some of these defensemen still make some sense. Matheson, Fox, Riley, Carlson, Morrissey could all make some sense here. It'd be hard to order these guys. I do think it is a real tier. I don't think there's a lot that separates these players. But yeah, I think that I would order it of these five. I think I would order it Morrissey first. Feels like that role is really secure. Matheson second. Obviously provides a ton of blocks and everything. Fox goes off, so I don't even have to rank him. But I think I would go Riley just above John Carlson. If I had to, put it all together, I'm going to take Josh Morrissey at the 6'4" and feel pretty good about that. Get my first defenseman off the board there. I do like to go defenseman relatively early. It's just not been, I just felt like the forward value has been way too crazy every time I've been on the clock to even really think about it. And the defenseman did kind of go a little bit early. All the defensemen that I was really interested in, I thought Hedmans and Dahlins, Bouchard, even Uyghur in this format going early. It just felt like the defensemen were always going a little bit ahead of me until this spot here at the 6'4", where they finally kind of caught back up in terms of the value for me. Leonidas said Slavkovsky's going to be great in this type of format very soon. Definitely. I can see that. I think he went, I'm going to look it up, but I think he went in the 7th round, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 7-8 in the last draft. And I think that made some sense in the points format. You could argue he should go sooner in this format. His two line mates come off here. We get Barzal at 6'5", we get Caulfield 6'6", we get Nick Suzuki 6'7". So maybe we'll get a Slavkovsky right here from Jackson, and we'll just round out the top line of Montreal in the 6th round. It could be kind of fun. Jackson asked about Werenski. Werenski and Heiskanen would be in this tier, but they both have their warts, right? Heiskanen's not really a goal scorer. Werenski's more of a goal scorer. But also probably not going to give you the power play points. Heiskanen rather doesn't shoot much. Werenski doesn't hit much. Heiskanen kind of lowish blocks. Werenski does get the blocks, but not the hits. Yeah, neither of them truly shine, I guess, in this format, and so I do think that they're a little bit of a step back from the other guys, but definitely I won't be mad at them if they come back around in the 7th. They'll definitely be in play for me. I can go ahead and add these guys. Add the Letang, add the Chikrin, add the Carlson, add the Heiskanen, add the Werenski. Probably the tier stops for me around there at this point. We get Kyle Connor at 6'8", we get Drake Batherson at 6'9", then we get the 6'10", Juraj Slavkovsky. We do get the top line from Montreal all off in the 6th round, which is probably the earliest their top line has gone in some time. And we get Michael Matheson. The whole Montreal group is off the board in the 6th round. If somebody wants to take the 5th member of that top power play unit, then please, by all means, take him here in the 6th. On the turn, we get Wyatt Johnston at 6'12". Yeah, Blake took him, 5'6" in the last mock. Hard to argue, 6'12". Maybe he does get dinged a little bit by the format, but definitely a player that we're all very excited about. I'm going to go ahead and add Marchessault. I'm going to add Tippett to the queue. DeBrincat could make some sense here. Zetterlund's showing up, but I think this is too early. Konechny should definitely be on the radar at this point in the game. Alex Tuck, who I took in the last draft, would definitely be on my radar in this kind of range. There's definitely some pretty interesting names coming around here at this point. Let's switch over to left wing only, see if there's anybody we're truly missing. Not anybody that's like super exciting. And then at center, we've still got Kadri. He's kind of toned down on the hit side of things, so he's become less interesting in this kind of setup. Got Dylan Larkin, who can definitely do some things in a setup like this, but Horvat, they're just in okay options, and I don't feel like I need to get a center only guy and kind of reach for them a little bit. I'd rather just, continue on the path of getting more defensemen, getting more wingers, and fill up my centers later. I've already got my elite center in Barkov in the 4th round. Yeah, feels pretty good. Don't need to rush anything there. Lucas Raymond goes 7-1. Marchessault goes 7-2. We get Montour at 7-3. Werenski goes 7-4. DeBrincat 7-5. Kadri 7-6. We're almost back on the clock, and there is one other player that I think might come around to me here. I think I'm going to throw into the queue. I'm trying desperately to not get sniped here, so Chewy J, make your pick, please. Don't be watching the stream. Don't be doing that, okay? You gotta let me get one guy. All right, yeah, there we go. This should be an auto pick, and then wait, did we already get Sergachev? Did Sergachev already go? Oh, I'm on center only. Here we go. Sergachev. I can't spell. This is going to be a problem. Sergachev hiding down here. Add Sergachev. That feels good. He's still hiding. We didn't learn our lesson from the last mock. I actually forgot about him again. I told myself I was not going to forget about Sergachev, and I forgot about him until the 7th round. I started looking at these names. Super happy about Sergachev in the 7th. Honestly, he should be in the conversation. I would say he belongs in the same tier as the McAvoy, as the Morrissey, as all these guys. In 34 games last year, he threw 36 hits, had 70 blocks, so he can definitely provide you some value in this format, and definitely should hold down a pretty significant role in Utah the entire season. I think he's their number one guy with a bullet at this point. Brock Faber goes 7-10, Konechny 7-11, Riley 7-12, Larkin 8-1, Carlson 8-2, and Owen Tippett goes 8-3. So there's some of these defensemen are still pretty interesting. I could go Heiskanen here and really round out the scoring. Do I have enough bangs to make up for that? I feel like I do at this point. I could also go Alex Tuck, who I'm definitely a big fan of in this range. Alex Tuck had 72 hits in 75 games last year, provided a bunch of blocks too. That is an intriguing option. I also like the defenseman though, but it is Cats, and I do feel like I can backfill defenseman a little bit easier. I'm going to go ahead and take Tuck. Making a stand on Alex Tuck this year. I think he's going to be underrated, and he's going to be well worth that 8th round pick. Did I take him? Yeah, I took him in the 7th last time in the last draft. So I'm definitely in on Alex Tuck this year. All right, let's get back into some comments. Hockey Kid said, damn, Nate, you just mentioned everyone in my queue. Sorry about it. Blake is finally in the chat. Not enough beef. I'm sorry. All right. I'll queue up some Radko Gudas for you. Is that or Jeremy Lauzon? What am I thinking? Radko Gudas. So 2022. Jeremy Lauzon is the guy now. We should add him to the queue, right? Add some Jeremy Lauzon. This is crazy. 388 hits last year, and the next highest left on the board at defense is Simon Benoit, 247 hits. Just absolutely lapping the field, Jeremy Lauzon. It's interesting to even think about what kind of value you'd place on a player like that, just because he has so much potential to just outright win you hits every single week. Now, does he do the exact same thing again next year? Can he sustain that level of hitting? That's definitely a question, but yeah, just crazy stuff. We definitely had some wingers too. You see Hathaway had 326 hits. You had Kolasar at 277, Clutterbuck 273. So definitely he's not the only guy who's out there throwing the body around, but definitely lapped the field, did Jeremy Lauzon. Crazy stuff. All right, after my tuck pick, we get Jordan Kyrou, 8'5", Chikrin, 8'6", Nelson, 8'7", Zetterlund, 8'8", Doughty, 8'9", McCann, 8'10". All right, let's see what we've got. Blake is saying, how do you sleep at night? Don't forget the popsicle. Why are you giving it away? You told me to draft him as my sleeper, and now you're just giving it away in the comments. What are we doing here, Blake? Jackson says, don't worry, Blake. I'm going to give you a nice creamy beef sandwich. Joanna asking, Truba when? Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think maybe some people are scared off of Truba a little bit. It definitely seems like the Rangers are deprioritizing him, talking about potentially trading him. Yeah, that's definitely something that's going to give people pause when it comes to Jacob Trouba this year. But obviously, he does provide that elite level of hits and blocks both. We can throw him on the queue for you. Why not? It's definitely in play at this stage in the game. And this is why I was considering staying with defenseman there. So we got to McCann at the 8'10". Then we get 8'11" Heiskanen, which feels kind of crazy, even in the format where he doesn't excel. Neil Pionk 8'12", Forsling 9'1", Carlson 9'2", Evander Kane goes 9'3", DeBrusk 9'4", Chris Letang 9'5", and now all my defenseman targets have vanished. Zuccarello, the Zucchini Man at 9'6", Drew 9'7", Nugent Hopkins 9'8", and I have to decide what I am doing with this pick. There's not a ton of super exciting options left. At forward, I don't think. We've got Jamie Benn, who obviously fits in this format. Tolvanen, who throws the body around. I don't feel super excited about any of that. Bo Horvat here makes some sense. Would be my second C only, which I don't love, but providing really solid value in terms of shots and everything. I think I'm going to go with Bo Horvat here at 9'9" and feel not too bad about it. Probably limits me. I probably don't want to be taking a third C only. Just the way I like to build and keep that flexibility. You heard in the last draft, if you watched that one, the last mock draft we did, you heard 18 Skaters Mark Barber just talking relentlessly every time he was on the clock, talking about trying to stay with players who give that positional flexibility. And I do think that's a really good point, and probably a point that I haven't made as clear in the past as I should, is that you really do want to focus as much as possible on getting some guys who can give you that positional flexibility. 9'10", Jeremy Lauzon goes. 9'11", Dougie Hamilton. We definitely forgot about Dougie Hamilton in this ADP scenario. He definitely fell further than he should have. So that's a good pick for sure. I should probably go back and look and see if there are any of those other D targets. I remember us talking about some of these D guys totally slipping, and this is kind of a new setup again. Like the ADP is all over the place with this, and also if you sort by score, it's just by year to date score. So it's definitely just how Fantrax, like it's their Fantrax rotisserie scorer. And so it kind of just weights everything equally, I think, across the categories, which is not the way that I'd like to do it. So like Seth Jones is still out here. There's definitely some names that are out here that would be pretty interesting still. So yeah, you just have to be able and willing to scroll for some of these players to be able to find the diamonds in the rough. I'm now just frantically searching the draft board from the last draft to see who's out there who might be slipping under the radar. Basically, the guys who are injured for part of the year. Those are the guys who might be flying under the radar here for sure. I think there might be one other that I should get queued up. Trouba goes. Ekblad is still here, and that's going to be my pick. That's going to feel good at 10-4. He definitely got missed in the last one too and went at 10-8. So that makes some sense. Let's see what else we got. Clear that up. So yeah, our two auto drafters, after taking the two goalies early, haven't taken any goalies since, and nobody else in this draft has taken any goalies. So while it probably pushed down, obviously, the early ADPs on a few players, like by the time we got past where, Shesterkin and Hellebuck and these guys might have normally been drafted, say in the 4th or 5th, everything after that point has been pretty much exactly where it would be, and now we're probably to the point where a bunch more goalies normally would go, and so we're trending in the other direction. Chewy J taking my Seth Jones. It's a good pick there. Nyquist and Buchnevich go to auto drafts here. Let's see what else could be in the queue. Rupe Hintz could make some sense. Definitely not a guy who excels in this format. Not really a compiler so much as an efficient player. And those are generally the players that don't show out as well in a categories format. I want guys who rack up tons of shots even if they have a low shooting percentage. Martin Nietzsche's can make some sense. He's right wing only and I already have 2 of those, so that's probably not a direction I'm going to end up going. Lafreniere would make some sense. Definitely. JJ Paterka could definitely make some sense if he comes back around. Yeah, there's definitely some players down here that'll be interested in. Even Matthias Ekholm, when we start to get down here. Shea Theodore, I know he doesn't hit at all, but you have to imagine he's still going to get some points there in Vegas. There's definitely some players down the list here that are going to be solid for me. Oh, needed some sort of beverage there to keep me moisturized. We get Tom Wilson at the 10-8, Sam Bennett 10-9, Braden Shen 10-10, Rupe Hintz 10-11. Hard to argue with any of those picks at this stage. At this stage, too, you can definitely think about the big time hitters who have marginal, scoring upside. That's definitely a spot. Like, yeah, in the 10th round, Tom Wilson, getting him for those hits, and then obviously some scoring is definitely in play. I don't mind that at this stage. Let's see if there's anything else that I should be adding to the mix here. I think Dylan Cousins makes a lot of sense in this format. Center right wing, is a shooter, is a hitter. Hopefully he's on the top power play. That could definitely make some sense here. There's probably somebody else a little further down that we're all missing on a little bit. I want to make sure I find that guy and be the first to him. Oh, it does get rough down here, doesn't it? Let's go back to the board. We get Lafreniere and Neighbors on the turn and come back with Gostisbehere at the 11-2. That is pretty solid stuff. Hard to argue there. I don't think there's anybody at defense that I'm really missing. And oftentimes in these categories, bangers categories league specifically, I am looking at filling that 4th and or 5th spot with some guys who lean more towards the peripheral categories, some heavy bangers. So I'm not like too worried. Like if I had to go all the way to the end and I just ended up sorting by hits and taking, Jake McCabe or whoever's there at the end, I'm not going to feel too bad about it. So definitely that's on the table here. Definitely you can go the other way and get the Garnet Hathaway, get the Martin Pospisil. You can get those guys in the later rounds as well if you just want to add some hits to your lineup late that way. Dakota Joshua, not a player that I think is going to repeat even the 18-goal pace. I haven't done the projection yet, but definitely had an outsized shooting percentage, but also a player who racks up hits at an unconscionable rate. So that makes some sense. Ilya Tolvanen is a player who can make some sense. Maybe he gets like a true top power play run this year, and so that could be pretty interesting. I'm actually going to try just sorting by all the skaters by goals and seeing who's out there. Trevor Moore can make some sense. Shot on goal monster, does some hitting, does some blocking. That's not a bad pick once you get into these double-digit rounds here. Blake Coleman is a similar vein, but we may have seen his best season already. You could try Nichushkin. I still don't really know what his situation is going to be next year. But if he plays, that would obviously be a massive value this late. I think most of the obvious names have started to really come off here. I don't know that there's anybody hanging out down here that's just an absolute slam dunk. I like Gabe Velarde, but he is a net negative basically in the hits and blocks. Yeah, it's hard to get excited about that really. I don't think there's anybody down here. Oh, I am on the clock. So I am going to go with Paterka here. I like Paterka a fair bit. Everybody does. I'm not unique in that take. Oh, I timed out. I took Nietzsche's. I'm not gonna change it. Nietzsche's was definitely on the board for me. But yeah, that would leave me with 3 right wings in this scenario, and I'm not super excited about that. So I would have rather definitely taken Paterka in this spot, but that's on me for not updating my queue and not paying attention as I scroll through. The curse of the streamer. and just not paying attention to the timeout. That's all right. Nietzsche's was a fine pick there. It'll be interesting to see what happens there, where he goes. There were some people, I mentioned Marner earlier, and the fact that he doesn't seem likely to move at this point, but there were some people postulating that it could be like a Nietzsche's for Marner situation. What exactly that would look like, there would have to be some, definitely there would be pieces all around that, but it could be an interesting route. So yeah, could see that. Pappy Beast goes Dakota Joshua. Ottinger 11. 11 is the first goalie, I believe, going back all the way to the second round with those two auto drafts. And then following it up right away in the 12th with Swayman. On the turn, we get Kraus and Pareko. Pappy Beast back up. I think this is a spot where I might go back to an Ekholm, or I might take Paterka. Saros goes 12-3. I like Paterka, but I think... Actually, I like all these guys a fair bit here. Cousins is a good bet too. Theodore is good just for the points. Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in, to be quite honest. Left wing, right wing eligibility is feeling nice to me, although I do have 3 right wing onlys. I've got my skater spots filled. Maybe it's a spot where I just need to go ahead and take Ekholm and fill out the defense. Don't feel too strongly about that. But he definitely will cover categories for me across the board, and yeah, provide some points, provide some shots, provide the hits and the blocks. Not going to be an exciting player, but probably a player who lasts in my lineup all year long. Matthias Ekholm in Edmonton, so I'm not going to be too worried about that. We got to get back to the comments. Jackson said that I told Blake I'd get him that creamy beefer, aka Tom Wilson. Fair enough. Ottinger at the 11-11 is nuts. Welcome to Zero G Drafts, my friend. You get on an Apples and Genos mock draft. This is what happens. It will always be this way if you come to an Apples and Genos mock draft. Hockey Kid says, let's start the goalie run. Maybe. I mean, in an Apples and Genos mock draft, this kind of counts, I think, right? We got 3 goaltenders in this round. Wow, people really lining up. Sorokin at 12-11 now. Yeah, that's about as crazy as it gets. Hockey Kid says, I'm a huge 0G guy, but getting on an Otter Sway tandem in the 11+12 is just too good. IMO. I mean, it definitely could be. I'm not going to hate on it in the 11th and 12th. Paterka falls to the 12-12. That's a nice pick. 13-11 Vasi, always going to feel good. 13-2 Skinner. So we are getting a full-on goalie run, it does appear. Let's recap into the 12th. After my Ekholm pick was Luke Hughes, Ryan O'Reilly, Noah Hannafin, Eli Tolvanen, Quentin Byfield, Vladimir Tarasenko. Then we get the Sorokin, the Paterka, the Vasilevsky, the Skinner. Coming back around, we've got Romanov and Sanderson so far here. I'm going to throw Cousins to the top of my queue now. I might take the shot on Nichushkin if he gets here. That would be interesting. I don't think there's anybody who's like a massive hitter who also has some goal scoring upside. I think all those players have mostly come off the board at this point. Yeah, nobody too exciting as we scroll down the list. It just gets uglier and uglier basically as we go down the list. So let's put that away. Jackson getting Adam Fantilli at 13-5. Not going to let him fall to me in the 16th again. I see Sean Dursey, 13-6. Fair enough. Let's see what we got. I don't know how to even sort this anymore. Like, Malkin's still here in the 13th, but obviously not a guy who contributes across categories the way he once did. There's I would say most of the guys with the big time cross category coverage have come off at this point. Scheifele being here is kind of crazy. I don't know if I can take the center only, having already taken a couple. As I mentioned, that was kind of the tough part of taking Horvat where I did, is that it would probably keep me out of taking a center only later in the draft, and that is kind of how I feel at the moment. I think I'm going to take Cousins. I think it's a good spot, and he hits, he shoots. If he gets on the top power play, he could easily well outperform this kind of draft slot here in the 13th round. So I like Dylan Cousins this far down, and he fits the format pretty well. So I'm good with that. We'll keep on looking. I'm going to probably try to snag a guy who can do some hitting and blocking at somewhere in this range. Josh Manson can make some sense. Jake McCabe can make some sense. Just get out in front of it a little bit. At this point, you're not really sniping anybody. Like the we're in a stage where the ADPs are so early. Everybody's just kind of doing their own thing, especially once you get into the 13th and later rounds. So I'm not too worked up about what we're doing here. Are there any goaltenders out here that I should be really highlighting? No, still feels gross. I don't like any of what I'm seeing here. I don't think I'd take them yet. So after my cousin's pick, we get Tanner Jeannot going 13-10. Interesting pick there. Jeff Skinner, hard to argue with his goal scoring upside in Edmonton now. Jacob Markstrom 13-12. Mark Scheifele 14-1. Dylan Genther 14-2. Love both of those picks there. I'm gonna have to figure out what I want to do here. I've got some decent cross eligibility across my positions now. Yeah, one thing I guess I am missing is I've really only got 3 guys with left wing eligibility, so I should probably find at least one more left wing player. Toffoli could be that guy for sure. Nichushkin could be that player if he's healthy. Trevor Moore, who I've already got in the queue, could be that player. Brandon Hagel could make some sense. People basically assuming that he's going to be the guy to get the top power play more often now. That could be the case for sure. Charlie Lindgren goes 14-3. Let's take the shot on Nichushkin. If it hits in a big way. So 14-4, I'll take the shot there. Vince Dunn at 14-5 feels pretty nice. I think I took him. Where did I take him in the last mock? 11-3. So yeah, I'm feeling that. 14-5, and Thomas Harley 14-7 also feels pretty good. There's definitely some stuff out here. We've got 2 more rounds left in this mock draft after the 14th. Don't know that this is going to be a spot where I'm going to take a goalie before the last couple rounds. I could be persuaded. Like, obviously, Bennington had a great year last year. There's some guys who portend to be, the top goaltender on their team. There's definitely some of these left. Like, Aiden Hill's still here. That might be it. No, there's definitely some guys. Jersey Kemper's still here. Tristan Jarry, Jordan Bennington, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, if you want to buy in on that. Connor Ingram, if you want to buy in on that. There's definitely some ways to play this. Johnny Gaudreau goes 14-8. Evan Rodriguez 14-9. Mrazek goes 14-10. That's an interesting one there. Chewy J, going back to the goalies, says quick, they're going like hotcakes. Brandon asked, does Johnny Gaudreau even get drafted? You have your answer, 14-8. He gets drafted. Yeah, definitely not a guy who shines in this format, though. That is for sure. Michael in the chat says, hey, man, huge fan of the channel. Just want to say thanks so much for all the content. You put in a lot of hard work, and we appreciate you. Appreciate the message. And, yeah, I mean, I have to say I love it. So it's not a whole lot of work for me to be doing stuff like this. That's for sure. Hockey Kid says it's too early to say without an update, but I love the Nichushkin pick just for optics' sake. Yeah, I mean it's gonna look good in the post game screenshot, and that's really all we're playing for, right? Like let's be honest with what we're doing here. Jackson says, "Give me that Johnny Hockey Fanta stag, baby." Yeah, to stack with Fantilli. It'll be interesting to see if he plays with him, maybe on the top power play. That could be a route they go. Definitely could see that happening. But I do think that, Boone Jenner could be in the mix. Sean Monahan obviously got signed there, could be in the mix. Don't think it's necessarily even likely that they play together at even strength. But definitely top power play could be in the cards there. Let's go back to the picks. 14-11, we get Huberdeau. 14-12, Drouin. Then in the 15th, we get Celebrini, Ekman Larson, McNabb, Allmark, Moore, Luukkonen, Toffoli, Ingram, and I'm back on the clock. Shea Theodore's still hanging out here. I know I said I wanted to go banger heavy with one of these defenseman picks, but Shea Theodore, that is kind of wild. I know he doesn't hit, but I'm not convinced that Hannafin takes this job as a top power play guy all season long, but I think I'm going to stay with my structure here, though, and I'm going to go to the guy who is going to bang. I'm going to go Josh Manson. But yeah, Shade the Hit Order being down here, yeah, feels like it should be worth that shot, right? Even if he's not that guy, it's a 15th round pick. Yeah, definitely feels like he should be worth that shot. Let's see if we got any big hitters. We got the Hathaway pick out here. We got the Pospisil pick out here. There's definitely some players that we could look at. Yeah, I mean, Ty Cartier, probably not. Jack McBain, maybe if I was Blake, I'd be interested in that just to do the audio bit again. That's definitely one of Blake's favorites. There we go. Poppy Beast, thank you for diving on that grenade. Shea Theodore, 1510. Felt like he shouldn't be here anymore. Coleman goes 1511. Hathaway, 1512. And we're coming into the last round here. It has been relatively quick. We're just rounding into the 1 hour mark, and we've been pounding it pretty good, even with the auto drafters here. Jordan Bennington, 16-1. That's probably not a sight you're going to see in a lot of home league drafts this year. That's for sure. Hockey Kid says, who's going to take the popsicle? We'll have to wait and see. Michael asks, what round do you think the average draft would pick Slavkovsky? We've seen him in the 7th and 6th here so far. I think that's probably where you're going to see him. I think he should go probably in the 6th or 7th. Yeah, I feel that feels good to me. It's definitely some upside with that pick, but also definitely not an exciting scenario yet in Montreal. They don't have a ton of high upside players. All right, I'm back on the clock. Final pick. Do we go goalie? Do we take Blake's guy? Let's move him to the top of the queue, just in case I talk this out too long and I get my my last auto pick of the draft on the board. Aiden Hill still being here is kind of crazy, to be honest. Let's do it. Let's draft a goalie in the 16th round. We take Aiden Hill. Tristan Jarry, 16-5. That's going to be four goaltenders for this auto draft team. I guess that's just how the auto draft algorithm works. 2 goalies right away, then it fills everything else up, and then it goes back to filling up the bench, I guess, and just takes the highest ADP. I guess that's how it's going. So we'll probably get another goalie or 2 here, but anyway, I think we got to see what we needed to see from this draft. Yeah, definitely there's still some goaltenders who are of interest to me, and I wouldn't hesitate to push it even further than this. Decord goes, Talbot goes. I mean, Logan Thompson's still out there. You got Philip Gustafson, who I mentioned on the last show. Maybe you want to bet on Montreal. You want to bet on Sam Montembeault. Carolina. Whoever plays as the goalie in Carolina is going to be well worth the click. So that's of some interest for sure. I believe Joseph Woll's still out there for Toronto. Yep. So that's definitely a click you can make. Yeah, there's definitely goaltenders out there that are worth the click at this point in the draft. I almost took Popsicle just for Blake. He was texting me about it before this, actually. But I had to disappoint him just one more time. Jackson goes Cam York. We get Darcy Kemper to Draisaitl. And we're just about at the end here. David Perron, let's finish with some comments. Michael's asking, what's this website? Been wanting to practice. My draft's a little bit early this year. Is it available for people, or do you need some friends need to get some friends in to practice on this website? I believe they're having mock drafts. I actually don't know if Fantrax is hosting their own mock drafts just yet, or how that's working. But definitely, if you join the Apples and Geos Discord server, link is in the description. You can check out the mock drafts channel, and as soon as we get ones filled, you'll be able to join there and get into one of these pretty soon. This is Fantrax, though. Yeah, Richard is putting that out there. Yeah, as far as I know, it's the only spot you can mock draft right now, and actually mock draft with people. So yeah, definitely jump in the Discord server if you want to join one of these mock drafts in the future. We're going to be running these all off season. They're a lot of fun. They're easy content for me to make. Have a lot of fun making them, have a lot of fun reading comments and talking with you guys while we do it. Richard says, fun draft boys. Got to compare the biggest draft differences between points and cats. That would be an interesting one for sure. I would have to go through and really kind of pull it out, but definitely I think you would find some pretty big differences. I think, where did Brian Rust go in this one? It seemed like he was hanging around for a while in this, and it's all about the Fantrax ADP too. No matter how you sort it, you can't get some guys to come up. So I think that it might just be that it's July and we're mock drafting the best we can with some weird ADPs. Hockey Kid says, thanks, Dave, for hosting. My pleasure. Jackson says, nice mock. Thanks for the fun time. Thanks for the fun time for you. So just for the listeners on audio only, I will run through my team one more time. Let's just do it in order. I took Draisaitl 1-9 with the 2 goalie auto picks right before me. He fell there. So obviously that was going to feel good. JT Miller 2-4. Mitch Marner 3-9. Barkov 4-4. Meyer 5-9. Morrissey 6-4. Sergachev 7-9. Tuck 8-4. Horvat 9-9. Ekblad 10-4. Natchez 11-9, Ekholm 12-4, Cousins 13-9, Nichushkin 14-4, Manson 15-9, and Aiden Hill, my only goaltender through 16 rounds of this mock draft. Feel pretty good about it. Definitely think there are probably some better picks I could have made. The Horvat pick doesn't feel very good in retrospect. There's definitely different routes I think I would have preferred to go with that one. But it's July and I'm having fun. So hopefully everybody out there listening, everybody who joined along on the live stream here had some fun on this one with me. But that's going to be it for this episode. Hopefully it brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. Many thanks to the band there for supplying the music for this podcast. Be sure to check out their Spotify as well. That's it, folks. Much love.